Indie Global Media Network.
We are going to celebrate the excellence leadership soon, and we have designed this very interesting fireside chat, and we are honored to have the program chair of our previous two editions, first and second Indie Global Festival, with the guidance, with the light he could give us. It is Shri Navin Mittal ji. I am glad he is joining despite being in the education department in the third Indie Global Education Festival. So there is a reason why this fireside chat, this visionary leader to be the part of this fireside chat. Please give us a huge round of applause in welcoming Shri Navin Mittal ji.
Mr. Navin Mittal, IAS officer of the 1996 Telangana Academy, is known for impactful governance and reform. A computer science graduate from the prestigious IIT Delhi, he secured All India third rank in the UPSC Civil Services exam. As the Commissioner of Collegiate and Technical Education, he drove over 60% rise in admissions and revamped curricula to focus on employability and soft skills in the government colleges. In the Revenue Department, as Principal Secretary, he addressed key challenges in land administration, including the Dharani portal. His landmark initiative, Bhu Bharati, a comprehensive land survey and record modernization program, was launched by the Honorable Chief Minister on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Jayanti. Previously, he served as Collector of Krishna and Hyderabad districts, led the restoration of Kolleru Lake and implemented award-winning e-governance at GHMC. Through initiatives like Palle Nidra, he brought governance closer to the people. Currently, he continues to serve as the Principal Secretary, Revenue Department, committed to transparent and tech-driven administration. Let us welcome Mr. Navin Mittal, IAS Principal Secretary, Government of Telangana.
And to do the honors, we have Shri Shrikant Sinha ji, who is the CEO for Telangana Academy for Skill and Knowledge, who would be moderating and touching upon the very interesting facts of Shri Navin Mittal ji. Let us welcome Shri Shrikant Sinha. Can we have the cordless mics here, please?
Having this fireside chat with Mr. Navin Mittal, who Sudhir has introduced just recently right now and spoken about his many achievements. But with your permission, Navinji, I would like to uncover your other side also, as well as, of course, the professional side. Incidentally, Navinji, if you remember, practically around this time or maybe a couple of days further in May, both of us were in Germany 6 years ago. And, there when I interacted with you, of course, we had met earlier when I was CEO NASCOM Foundation and you were the Special Commissioner for GHMC in the Microsoft program. We were panelists, and what you had spoken at that time in terms of skills that will be required for the future, if I look at it at that time also, it had left a mark in my mind saying that yes, if this is the kind of people who are there in Telangana, no one can stop Telangana from reaching greater heights. So welcome on this fireside chat. Couple of questions I wanted to ask you regarding, because when you talk about a great tree, right? A great tree would also have fantastic roots. So Navinji, with your permission, I would like to ask you about your childhood. Where was it? How was it? Any incidents that you remember from your childhood, please?
So good evening to all of you. First of all, I must thank Indie Global for inviting me and Shrikantji for having this session. I'm sure that it will be interesting to have this conversation after a long time. In fact, Shrikantji and I used to be constantly in touch he's CEO of Task, and I was Commissioner of Higher and Technical Education. There was a lot of interesting interaction. But as he was mentioning, we were together going global conference at Germany, which is organized by British Council. Since you asked about the childhood, it takes me back to Punjab, where I come from. Most of my childhood has been basically, I would say, characterized by two factors. One, because my father was in a transferable job. We had to move from one city to another and switch schools. So that made it very interesting, because every 2-3 years you move into a new place and you move into a new school. You suddenly don't know anybody, you leave your friends behind and then interact with new set of people. They already have their own groups, and they already have their own set of likes and dislikes, and then you intruding into that and trying to make friends. I think that was a very, very interesting experience, and that really made me, I would say, confident of the fact that you go into a new situation, kind of learn how to handle that and make new connections, make new networks. That was one very, very interesting part, I must say. The second was that we lived literally under the shadow of the gun, because Punjab was going through the peak of terrorism. I must say, I did my 10th sometime around 1989. So, right from my 3rd or 4th class to 10th class, that was the peak of terrorism in Punjab. It was a very difficult period, I must say. It also made one very fearless, because sometimes you don't know what is coming next. I remind you of my incident where my father was in a different place, 200 kilometers from my hometown, and then somebody make a call that my father's been shot dead and is lying somewhere. Oh my God. It was at 10 o'clock in the night, and my mother was also not at home, and you can imagine the kind of struggle which as a child one has to go through to find out what is happening. Luckily, it was a fake call, and I could connect to my father after an hour, but it really made you physically, mentally very, very strong to face those difficult situations. So I think that really was a very significant part in making me who I am today.
Interesting, very interesting. Two very, very relevant points. First point he said is, going to new environments, right? We are always resistant to change, but Navinji was able to go to different schools, create new friendships, get into the friendships that are already, existing, close groups. How do you get into close groups? And of course, the second one, which is really, normal people would get worried and shattered in case if such a phone call comes. Hats off that you were able to manage things. And of course, the terrorism in Punjab, I know how it was and everything else. So less said than better about it. But yes, being in those kind of circumstances, and as a child, I think you would not be more than 10, 13 years?
Yeah, that's true.
Yes. So, getting that kind of phone call and then managing to get in touch and get the thing sorted out. Hats off. Fantastic. What is family? How is family?
So, we are 3 brothers. I'm the only one who's in India. My 2 other brothers live in US. My parents basically switch between India and US every 6 months. 6 months they're in US, 6 months they're in India. They're in India. They switch between our native place and my place. So it's interesting for them because they get to kind of move and live at different places according to their interest. On my personal family front, I've got a daughter and a son. Daughter has just finished engineering and she's appearing for some competitive exams. And my son has just joined university as first year in computer science. So it's an interesting
Wonderful
time for me personally.
Wonderful. Great. So coming back to, after schooling, college, right? And also school, I want to understand what games you used to play. What sports were you interested in at that time?
Okay. So, I did my graduation from IIT Delhi. That was very interesting period because the kind of competition you have in IIT is what makes IIT the place what it is. I think this was from 91 to 95. The total intake of all IITs today is probably nearly 15,000, but those days was only some 1,400. We put people who probably only stood first in their own classes or in their own schools, and suddenly you put them together. Somebody has to be at the top of the list and somebody will be at the bottom of the class. You can imagine the kind of changes which people go through. But I think it's that struggle which makes a place what it is renowned for. And it's that struggle, I think, which makes people equipped to succeed later in life. And that is what I feel. I mean, I think one of the reasons why people who have passed out from various IITs, they've succeeded either in US or in their own enterprises, whether it is in India or abroad, is primarily the competition which they go through. You have to learn to succeed in spite of all odds. I think that is what that place teaches you. Of course, it also, Delhi that way was a great combination of various things. I used to kind of, I would say, master of none but jack of all sports.
Okay.
You get to play tennis, you get to play badminton, you get to play TT or even a bit of cricket. So one could kind of basically look at and experiment with almost every sport, and that made it interesting. The social life also was very, very interesting because the year in which I joined IIT, that was the year when Priya Theatre opened in Delhi.
Okay.
Priya is something which became PVR.
PVR, yes.
Because they tied up with the Village Roadshow of US, and then it became Priya Village Roadshow. So that had just come up. I remember probably joined in August, and September it opened up. I mean, it was something which India had not seen earlier. Every weekend, almost all of us were there. And the interesting part was that everybody was in those front 4-5 rows. Only the student who had a girlfriend was allowed to sit in the back rows. But everybody else had to buy a 5 rupee ticket and in the front row. Life was very interesting, and I must say it was probably the best part of my own life, I would say.
Excellent. So when you're talking about this stage and you spoke about PVR movies, so what kind of movies you preferred? Right? Hold on. Here's my full question. Which was the heroine that you had a crush on? Or who was your favorite heroine? And what kind of movies do you like?
Most of the movies which I have watched was basically from Bollywood when we were in school. In fact, I remember I was telling you about the peak of terrorism in Punjab. This was when Punjab went through this lockdown for almost 2 months when this Operation Blue Star happened in 1984.
84.
I was probably in 6th class. And we had this access to a VCR. So, and there used to be these video libraries. Right? So you could rent the video cassettes. I remember, I think me and my both younger brothers, we would have had watched something like 60 movies in those 2 months. I mean, every day we watched a movie, and that is what I think all of us remember. Of course, in IITs, it was more Hollywood. I mean, every week we were in Priya. Some of the best movies came during that time. I remember Silence of the Lambs was an amazing movie. There was this movie, I mean, number of them. And so many good movies came during that time. Of course, when I came to Andhra Pradesh, my training was in Kakinada. So one of the tips we were given when we were in Mussoorie Academy was that if you have to learn the language, watch local movies. So, and I was in a place called Kakinada, which if any of you have been there, the town is basically 3 streets. So you have this Temple Street, you have this Market Street, and you have the Cinema Street. And the Cinema Street had something like more than 15-20 theaters that time. So I started watching Telugu movies. Of course, first 3-4 months I could not make head and tail out of it. So I used to take my PA along, who used to tell me the translations. There were no subtitles in a cinema hall. But then slowly the ears get tuned to the local language, and you tend to pick up the language. So mostly after 3 or 4 months, I started understanding, and after 6 months, it was more proficient. Because it took almost 8 to 9 months to really start speaking. In fact, my first words in Telugu was a real disaster. I remember I went to guest house from the railway station when I first landed, and I needed the water. So I asked the attendant who was there in the guest house. We had learned the little bit of language. So I asked him, Nilu. Then he brought a bucket of water. And then I realized, no, it is not Nilu, it is Manchi Nilu. But it was interesting. These days, it's mostly maybe Bollywood in theaters or Hollywood on Netflix.
Great. But still, you are trying to avoid the question. So I'll come back to the question again. Which is your favorite hero and which was the heroine that you had a crush on?
So I can tell you one of the posters which I had in my room when I was in IIT, it was Madhubala's poster.
Okay. Interesting.
There used to be, I know many of you, because we are from the same age, there used to be a very nice Archie's black and white poster
Right.
of Madhubala, and it was there in the room.
Interesting. And hero?
Maybe many, I mean, maybe Dilip Kumar from the early times, and Amitabh Bachchan, and then Amir Khan, and it has kind of progressed over the years.
Sure. So while we have spoken about it, I still want to understand, when did you realize that you want to serve the nation, you want to become a civil servant?
I think a part of it was from the childhood, because we lived mostly in the district, so you could always see this district collector's house or SP's house, and it was always an inspiration that so probably there was the seed which was there from the childhood, but I think the real choice was made in the third year of my graduation, because everybody was applying for US. We were a class of 40, and I can tell you 36 went to US from our class of 95 computer science. I was having a CGPA of 9.86. I was number 3 in the class, and then almost all these students were after me that if you don't want to go to US, don't apply, because you'll be spoiling one university seat which somebody else could do. And then I accepted that, and then I didn't apply. And that was when I had to really make a choice whether it's the US or it's in India. And I don't think there were too many opportunities in India in the private sector at that time. Of course, some of our classmates did very well in entrepreneurship, those who went into. But it was always the civil services, which was always an exciting field. And now it's been nearly about 28 and a half years. But I think when I look back, I have a lot of sense of satisfaction in having chosen this.
Wonderful. And 1996 batch, initially you were third, but since the first 2 people have left the civil services, practically you are the topper of the 1996 batch of IS officers. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Navin Mittal started his career into civil servant, and he spoke about how he did that. Would like to understand from you about your early postings, right? How were they? What were the experiences that you had? Of course, you narrated about the bucket of water. Very interesting one. I don't think I can drink one full bucket of water, but yes. How was it? Any incidents that you remember from that time?
So again, after the training in Kakinada, the first 2 postings were again the first one is sub-collector in Mulund, which is now a district headquarter, but it was a revenue division at that time. And then second was in Adilabad, project officer ITDA. Again, those 2 are the hotbeds of left-wing extremism. But then, as I mentioned, the childhood in Punjab again helped me to cope up and I would say do a lot of satisfying work in both Mulund as well as in Adilabad. I remember there were more than 300 villages in Mulund, and during my 16 months there, I visited every single village. There were some 7 or 8 villages which were inaccessible, But then when I was expecting that, I'll be probably moving, I visited, and there's lot of support from people, and uh, mm, because I was again going into the public and also allowing public to meet. I think the word around was that this sub collector can go anywhere; he would not be touched, uh, and there was like an unsaid word which was around that yes, this is something which is acceptable even from underground elements.
Right.
In Adilabad, this is more to do with the tribal development,
Right.
and I consider it to be one of my most satisfying assignments of the career, apart from two other, which is Collector of Krishna, and then my previous assignment in higher education sector. I stayed there for about 3 years, and that helped me to look at things from a very ground level perspective. You see poverty from very close quarters. You see people who are very innocent, and who, for whom very small things matter a lot, and that really changed my understanding of life, I would say, and made me learn a lot of things personally, and also experiment with a lot of things, a lot of which was successful. In fact, uh, we had the good fortune of two projects at that time. One was the World Bank funded Velugu project, which was about self-help groups, and the other was International Fund for Agriculture, IFAD funded agricultural development. So I think put together some real groundbreaking work could be done there, which really gave a lot of satisfaction.
Absolutely. I think, working with the tribals in those days would have been quite an experience and a challenge also. So, what were the challenges that you faced while performing this role?
So challenges were multifold. One was the overall capacity of the communities to receive development funds and make good use of it, out of it. I mean, more often than not, one found that a lot of funds were spent, but they did not last long. The development or the change which was supposed to come did not happen.
Right.
And that was because, again, it is to do with the capacity of the community to receive it. So I think one of the ways which we tried to intervene was through the self-help group mode. And in fact, this was one of the topics of a lecture which I delivered at the World Bank in Washington in 2002. Self-help group as a delivery mechanism for development. That is, if the local community takes up the initiative and the funds are routed through the community, the impact is much more than in outside driven development. And and I think that really helped to understand that if communities are involved in development, the effects are much more long lasting and much better. Then, of course, it's also got to do with the overall accessibility of the area. Area where you can't easily reach. It is very difficult to integrate into. I would say again, it's a word which I'm saying it is a little controversial, and sometimes in tribal development terms is to mainstream or to integrate with the mainstream. But I think development does not reach until you connect places.
Right.
And that was a time when it was very expensive to do that and very difficult to do that. But I'm very happy that in last maybe 20 plus years, lot of transformation has happened from that point of view. Third is, of course, education and also health. That was a time when our primary focus was enrollment, because you found that enrollment was the primary issue. But I think we have come a long way now. We have been able to overcome the enrollment challenges, but now it is to do with retention and quality. So we have really moved, I would say, step up the ladder. Health. I remember year before I went there, there were more than 200 deaths due to malaria. Oh my God! In that place. So ensuring that communities are again involved in overcoming it could really, really bring it down. And I think you pick up a sector of development, and you could see that actually lot of wonders can be done in an area like that. So that's why I find it to be so satisfying and so interesting.
Wonderful, wonderful. No, absolutely agree with you. So let me move from your tribal thing to the city life, right? Whether it was Visakhapatnam or Hyderabad, right? How was your role different compared to the tribal districts, etc.?
Right. So from the tribal areas, I actually like it happens with most IS officers. You know, you tend to handle multifarious jobs and switch from one extreme to the other. I moved from tribal development to urban development from Adilabad to Visakhapatnam. So I was municipal commissioner Visakhapatnam from 2002 to 4, and then collector of Vijayawada from 2005 to 8, and then collector of Hyderabad to 2008 to 10. And then special commissioner of GHMC.
Yes.
So most of my later career has been in urban development. Almost more than a decade I have spent. And again, urban development is again one of the most interesting sectors, I must say, because one, the challenges are huge. Two, the impact comes very fast. Difference between tribal development and or rural development and urban development is that rural development, you take up an initiative, you will find that the result comes after 6 months or after 1 year or after 2 years or after 5 years or maybe a decade later. But in urban development, you do something, you will see impact next day. I mean, you do a sanitation initiative, you will see suddenly the city much more clean from the next day onwards. You do some improvement with water supply, improvement happens immediately. So urban development, the challenges are very, very huge, but if some proper work is done, the impact also comes very, very quickly. And I think the major challenge in Indian urban development sector is lack of funding. We do not provide adequate funds for urban development, neither from the states nor from the center. And the capacity of urban local bodies is again very limited because their own sources of income are abysmally small. To give you an example, a house in Banjara Hills maybe would pay annually a property tax of, let's say, maybe 10,000 rupees or 12,000 rupees per annum. The cost of that house would be something like, if not more, maybe 5 crore. So, $500,000 house pays, in dollar terms I'm telling, pays something like $100 or $150 per annum. A comparative situation in a developed country like US or Europe would be a $500,000 house would pay at least $5,000 of property tax every year. So you can imagine the comparison. I'm just saying capital cost to capital cost. Not to talk of the overall dollar-rupee difference.
Right.
Just compare the capital cost. It's like almost like 50 times a city's collection from property tax. I mean, I'm not saying it is immediately replicable in India because you can't compare again money which has been invested on a house, like say over a period of time and it has grown. You can't certainly compare it with this, but the point which I'm trying to make is our
Limited
overall
resources.
revenue in urban areas is abysmally low.
Right. So when you faced this problem, then you became Secretary Finance also, right? In between. So how did you try to manage the two things? Here you know you are having this funds, here as Secretary Finance. Did you come up with some schemes or something which helped both the tribal as well as the urban that you'd like to share with us?
This handling finances was again a very, very interesting experience. I was a Secretary Finance from 2016 to 17 for a period of 1 year. And it made me learn a lot. And I think the major role, again, if you look in hindsight, you may deem it controversial, but it was to raise funds for the flagship project of the then government, which was Mission Bhagirath.
Right.
So we were able to raise something like 40,000 crores for that project from bank funding. And it was something called off-book borrowing. It was not something which was done before, because what happens is the state's capacity to borrow is limited by FRBM.
Right.
That is the FRBM, which is the Fiscal Responsibility and the Budgetary Management Act, provides a cap of 25% for a state to borrow, 25% of GSDP to borrow.
Right.
But there is a catch that annually it should not exceed 3%.
Oh. Right.
And the reason for that is that in India, the nominal growth is something of the order of about 12%. You have some 6 to 7% growth, and you add 5-6% of inflation, the annual growth is about 12%. So the idea is that if your GSDP is growing by 12% and your debt is at 25% and it is growing at 12%, then it gives you a 3% of GSDP cushion every year. So if you have 25% GSDP as a cap and 3% annual borrowing, you will always be at 25% is the appeal. But Telangana, that time, the debt GSDP ratio was only about 17-18%. But we were constrained by 3% cap.
Right.
And we had this 6% cushion which was there. And that is what we could leverage from banks through an off-budget borrowing.
Right.
Today, if you see in hindsight, it is something which is controversial. But at that time, I think it was
Need of the hour.
It was need of the hour, and it was also considered to be a very innovative step.
Sure. Next, you moved as Secretary Higher Education or Education per se, sorry. Right. So, of course, the kind of work that you did in that particular profile, I think all the people over here are beneficiaries of that, right? Getting the bucket system for degree education, or in fact, I wanted to ask you is, yes, normally in colleges, it is the Thomas Hardys and Charles Dickens which are taught. So what triggered you into removing that and getting business communication English into the colleges? Because that is considered one of the revolutionary steps which actually helped Telangana move ahead as far as placements was concerned.
So I think when I look back, it was the systems which we saw in IITs, or personally I saw in IIT, which gave a lot of ideas. We had a very, very flexible system. There were a lot of choice-based electives. You could do electives from other departments also. The faculty was very, very empowered. Every faculty member had the choice of what exam they will administer, and there used to be 2 minors and 1 major, and then a lot of other surprise quizzes, assignments, and stuff like that. And every faculty member decided what is the cutoff of their grades. I mean, they used to plot the scores of the students on a normal curve, on a graph, and then there are certain points where there are breaks, and so every faculty member could decide that this is A grade, this is B grade, this is C grade, this is D, this is E, and this is fail. So there were courses in which some courses in which A grade ended at 90 marks, and in certain courses A grade was at 65 marks because the papers or the exams were very tough. And more often than not, most of the questions which used to be asked in exams were unseen questions. I mean, I don't think they were there in any book, or their internet was almost absent in those days. There were few exams where faculty allowed you to bring the books, but even if you get the book, you won't find a solution to those questions. So I think that kind of empowerment of a teacher and that kind of flexibility in the system is what makes IITs excel. Of course, I don't say that can be implemented in an affiliating university directly, because there are a lot of challenges in terms of so many shades of colleges being part of that system. But then I think if as a country we have to improve our education system, we have to empower our faculty in a big way. And there's also a responsibility on the faculty to, if they are empowered, to also use that empowerment in a proper way. Otherwise, what happens? I mean, we see this issue in our schools, CBSE schools. I mean, there is this continuous and comprehensive evaluation system which was brought in. A lot of emphasis was given on internal evaluation, but then school will give full out of full for every student. I mean, it doesn't work. Right. I mean, if the faculty is empowered, it also has to.
So checks and balances.
Checks and balances have to be there. And so with that mindset, I think we try to bring in these changes, bring in as much as flexibility as possible. Again, you can't make it fully flexible because there are constraints in terms of number of days on which you can conduct the exam. So this bucket system was an innovation, that you divide all the subjects in 4 buckets and then allow students to choose any 3 out of those 4, and will give you nearly, I remember there's a college in which we looked at, there were 52 combinations of subjects, where without bucket system was only 6 combinations. So flexibility and student choices become more important. Coming to the English course design which you are mentioning, this we were able to look at probably when I was probably 2 years into the assignment. And one day we were looking at when English is compulsory for every single student in Telangana, whether it is BSc, BCom, BA, why our students are not proficient in English? I mean, they are not able to even converse properly or write properly. And then when we went in the syllabus, we found that most of the syllabus of this common English was English literature. I mean, I per se don't have anything against English literature. I mean, but English literature can be an optional subject. But English literature should not be forced on compulsorily on every single student, is what I firmly believe. I mean, there have been debates on this, but I'm still convinced that, like physics, chemistry, maths, English literature should also be an optional. It is not something which should be forced onto every student at graduation level. I'm not talking of school level. And what is required at graduation level is more of communicative English if you are making it compulsory. If it is optional, fine. I mean, you can give the option to the students. But if you are making it compulsory, what is the takeaway for every student? I mean, what is it that he or she really needs that English for in the career, or for that matter, our second language also, or the local language also. And that is what convinced. Of course, it was not easy because there was a lot of clash between the department, the Council of Higher Education, and the Board of Studies. So it was a lot of thing. But I think at the end of it, people understood that no, it has to change, and that's how it could change. And I'm happy that it happened, because if you are making every student spend roughly about 5 credit hours every week,
Right.
or let's say in a semester, something like 75 hours over a period of 6 years, or 3 years, 6 semesters, something like 300 hours. I mean, then you give something useful to the students and not something which is not going to help them in their career. And I think the same is true for other things also. And I'm happy that a lot of debate is now going on in our country after NEP, especially even for school education also,
Right.
as to for the compulsory subjects like science or social sciences or maths, what is it that is relevant for a student, and what is something which can be probably left out and left out as an optional at a later schooling age or at a higher education stage. I mean, problem is that many times in our excitement for it, we try to pack so many things. I mean, if we really look back, I mean, those who are, let's say, I've been a maths student, or maths was also my optional in civils, but those who are not maths, how much of trigonometry, or how much of algebra, or I mean higher algebra, or other things, is something which each one of us remember from our schooling days. Again, it's a question. I mean,
True.
I'm not saying what is right or wrong, but it's something which, as a system, or as having interest in the education sector, we must ask. Only when we ask, we get to improve. Today, what is right may not be relevant or right maybe after 10 years. But if we keep asking this question, I think we'll be positively improving.
Right. On a lighter note, there was this video doing the rounds on WhatsApp, where a student calls his professor and says, "Sir, do you remember you taught me a plus b whole square in school?" He said, "Yes, I remember." He said, "Sir, where can I use it?" He said, "No, you can't use it." He said, "Even when I'm in depression, I can't use it." He says, "No." "Even if I am broke, I can't use it." "No." He said, "Then why did you call my father and scolded me because I couldn't remember what a plus b whole square was?" So you're absolutely right. I think it's important for us to ask questions. And of course, I benefited from you being into the collegiate education and the technical education, where, thanks to your initiative, all the colleges, the government degree colleges and all the polytechnics also became part of the task infrastructure. And I still remember the first skilling program that we did, where you were there as part of the whole thing, and we were taking the feedback. And everyone at that time said they had never gone through a program like this, because our whole aim was experiential learning. And that is where I think, we prepared ourselves for the forthcoming COVID also, and we were able to do it. But I think, how did you see the change happening in the faculty members, especially in the interior districts, etc.?
In a sense, if I tell you very frankly, because I mean, as commissioner, you handle the government colleges directly. I must say that the faculty of government colleges was very, very talented. Correct. The reason is that all of them come through a very, very difficult competitive test, where sometimes the number of applicants is, let's say, 100 times the vacancies which are advertised. But what happens is, there's lot of lack of motivation over a period of time, because the faculty is not either empowered or in the sense made to work in a system where they don't see the relevance. And I think we started saying that, see, if you look at the and I'm talking about degree colleges because if you see the most coveted colleges in the country in engineering are all again nothing wrong with the private sector. No, please don't think like that. The IITs or NITs or no, even in the state it is Osmania College of Engineering or JNT College of Engineering.
Sure.
I mean, only when after they fill, the other colleges fill. Even if you see in medical, you will see AIMS right at the top, or no.
Correct.
Even in the state, if you only after the Osmania Medical College or the Gandhi Medical College fill, students opt for other colleges. And I asked him the same question. I mean, when it is so for engineering and medical, why is it not so for a degree college?
Correct.
And when you ask this question, you will find that they started thinking, and when that's what I'm saying. People, when they start asking questions, they will also give you a lot of solutions. So they keep started telling, no, this is not there, this is not there. Some of my former colleagues are here, but you start getting lot of ideas and lot of things, and start taking these mini steps, micro steps, which actually move you further and further on that.
Right.
And I think it's not something big bang, but it is combination of these small steps which bring about big change. And I think that is what happened. A lot of our emphasis went into NAC scoring. Of course, there's some controversy surrounding the gradings also, but then for government institutions, I think it's quite fair process because you can't influence them in any other way. And I'm happy that a lot of our colleges started getting A grade, A plus grade. In fact, GDC Begumpet, somebody can tell what was the NAC score? Yeah. 3.56. 50. The City College, 3.67. So, I mean, these are scores which are unheard of
Yes.
earlier in our system, but I think the credit goes to the faculty because they started looking at how we can improve and then work towards this improvement.
Wonderful. So, moving to your present role, Bhu Bharat. Tell us something about it and what are the challenges? How did you overcome them?
So, Bhu Bharati is launched very recently. It was launched on 14th of this month, 14th of April, on the birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. It's basically a new system which is replacing the Dharani system. Those who are from Telangana would know that Dharani became a very controversial system. In fact, it became one of the most important election issues during the assembly elections of 23. So Dharani was basically a computerized or an integrated land record management system. But what happened is the way it was implemented led to lot of problems. Of course, it has been the experience of most states that when you computerize land records, because the land records are not updated or relevant of today's time, there is an issue. But then this became much more controversial because it was done with lot of kind of I would say speed and push, which led to a lot of errors. And then the system was not designed to handle those errors properly, and that led to a lot of hue and cry among farmers and landowners that there was this cry for change, and it became an election issue. So when the present government came into power, a lot of focus and emphasis was given on how to improve it. And we say that there are 4 pillars of Bhu Bharati. First is the new act, which is the Bhu Bharati, Telangana Bhu Bharati Record of Rights Act 2025, which was brought in on the 4th of January. And lot of time, energy was spent to bring in this act. So we looked at almost the Record of Rights Acts of 18 states and the 4 previous acts in the Telangana. And then we were able to bring in the best features and also some futuristic features into it. The second is the rules, because rules is what makes, because rules are basically delegated legislation, and it is what gives power to every authority to do things. So for Dharani, though it was brought in 2020, the rules could never be brought in. And the previous act which was there in 1971, the rules could come only in 1989. It took 18 years for the rules to come. But for this act, we were able to issue rules on the day of the launch, that is 14th April, in just a period of what, 3.5 months. Wonderful. And we try to make those rules very crystal clear as to what is the role of every authority in doing it. So that's the second part of it. The third is the portal, which I was mentioning. The Dharani portal had lot of glitches, and it was very. It happened in a way that everything was not thought through. So when problem was occurring, a patchwork was happening in the portal. So it became very, very difficult portal to handle. So much so that, if I can tell you, it started with 3 modules, but it has 35 modules till recently, and it expanded to almost like 20 lakh lines of code and 4,000 tables. Some of you who have background in IT, you would imagine if a software has 2 million lines of code and 4,000 tables, how complex it would become. So the idea is now to make this portal much more user friendly. So the front end has been changed, and work is happening on the back end to further improve it. And parallelly, we are developing a completely new portal from the scratch, so that replaces this. And the fourth part is the administrative strengthening. So as I mentioned, clearly delineating which authority has what power, and work which can happen at a lower level should not be pushed up. That was one of the lacunas of Dharani, that every decision was happening only at collector level, and all the other authorities were totally disempowered. So we have kind of delegated a lot of stuff over a period of last 1.5 years, but in that and rules we have made it much more clearer.
Interesting. So with such a high tension job, stressful job, what keeps you sane? Is it music? Is it sports? Is it something else?
I mean, of course, I have my own, I would say, interests. Do a bit of yoga and play once in a while when I get a chance. But I think when you enjoy your work, the work becomes your playfield. So if you enjoy it, I mean, I think it's similar to, for example, you ask a cricketer, or you spend from morning till evening playing a test match, 5-day test match. I mean, is it not tiring? But it's play.
Sure.
So if work becomes play, I think you don't feel it.
But you also play golf. You also were playing tennis at one time.
Yeah. So I play golf once in a while, but again, since it's a very time-consuming game, I don't get much time. So probably the average would be once in 3 weeks. I'm not saying once in 15 days or once in a month, but more like thrice in 2 months, I would say.
Okay. Are you ready for this? Quick fire questions.
Sure.
Right? Bhangra or salsa?
I mean, I would say Bhangra, because I come from Punjab, and I remember that any national festival, Bhangra was the last item.
Correct.
Because it just brings in that level of energy into you.
Interesting. Okay. Pizza or chola bhatura?
Again, chola bhatura.
Okay. Okay.
Of course, I like pizza also.
Sure.
But if you say
Right. Fiction or self-help books? Fiction books or self-help books?
that's a difficult one. So if you ask what I'm able to read, I would say more of non-fiction. But I would like to read fiction when I have more time.
Okay. Finally, I would like to know from you, how do you define success?
That's an interesting one. How do you define success? So success has basically two components. One I would say is your personal success, and other is you may say societal success or success in terms of the work which you do. And I think it's important to have both. Only the personal success at some point makes you deficient, and I may not say that same thing for the outcome of your work, but you may succeed in your work, but if you don't feel satisfied personally, again, it makes you unhappy. So I think success has to be kind of both the things.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, the man behind the officer, Mr. Navin Mittal. Pleasure having this conversation with you. Naveen ji, thank you very much for this candid conversation that we had. Wonderful, and it was always a pleasure knowing you, and wish you all the very best for the future also. Thank you very much.
Hats off to have running such a lovely fireside chat. And for now, I would like to give away a token of appreciation to Sir Navin Mittal. So I would request Sudhir Gautam and Sir Shrikant to come forward. Huge round of applause, please, for Shri Navin Mittal, who is the IAS Principal Secretary, Revenue Department, Commissioner, CCLA, Government of Telangana.
Of the 1996 Telangana Academy is known for impactful governance and reform. A computer science graduate from the prestigious IIT Delhi, he secured All India third rank in the UPSC Civil Services exam. As the Commissioner of Collegiate and Technical Education, he drove over 60% rise in admissions and revamped curricula to focus on employability and soft skills in the government colleges. In the Revenue Department, as Principal Secretary, he addressed key challenges in land administration, including the Dharani portal. His landmark initiative, Bhu Bharati, a comprehensive land survey and record modernization program, was launched by the Honorable Chief Minister on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Jayanti. Previously, he served as Collector of Krishna and Hyderabad districts, led the restoration of Kolleru Lake, and implemented award-winning e-governance at GHMC. Through initiatives like Palle Nidra, he brought governance closer to the people. Currently, he continues to serve as the Principal Secretary, Revenue Department, committed to transparent and tech-driven administration. Let us welcome Mr. Navin Mittal, IS Principal Secretary, Government of Telangana.
So, it's our honor and a privilege to felicitate Shri Navin Mittal ji with the Lifetime Achievement Award.